My fiance told me the reason why she wants to marry me. Now I'm breaking off the engagement. I, M35, and Nicole, F33, have been together for almost 5 years. How we met was relatively unusual. I have a twin brother, identical twins. When we were teenagers, he had a slight obsession with racing cars. It was obvious that he would do something stupid. He borrowed a sports car from a friend's father, and it took less than 15 minutes before he had an accident that ended in his death. The whole family was basically devastated, especially because he crashed into a car with a family inside. Only the father survived. Unfortunately, the 2 children and the mothers succumbed to their injuries. I can't even describe the feeling I had when this came out. The entire town attacked our family because we dared to mourn my brother's death. My mother wanted to attend the family funeral to pay her respects. The husband practically beat her at the grave. This then resulted in a court hearing in which he was sentenced to high compensation and a short time in prison. That gave him the rest financially. Of course, we were all ostracized, but we couldn't move away because my father got sick and couldn't take the stress anymore. Fast forward 6 years ago, I took over the grave maintenance, and I always noticed that someone was putting flowers on their grave. I found that strange, but I was happy that someone remembered him as more than a murderer. At some point, I met a woman at his grave that was Nicole. She said at the time that she thought it was terrible how we were treated back then, and she felt obligated to do something good for him. After all, he had been more than just an idiot who was driving too fast. I thought that was very nice, and it developed into a friendship and ultimately a relationship. The last 5 years have been the best of my life, and it only took me so long to ask her the question because I wanted to be on solid financial ground first before I asked her. She said yes straight away, and both of our families are very happy about it. Everything was actually fine, at least until the rehearsal dinner 2 weeks ago. We tried all the wines we wanted to serve, and as it happens, it didn't take long until the whole group was pretty drunk, and the whole thing turned into a party that was completely okay with me. Nicole sat with her sisters, and they talked. I didn't want to interrupt, so I stood a little behind her and wanted to let her finish when I overheard the conversation. Nicole and her siblings are only half siblings. Her father and mother had separated, and her father had married a new woman. This left me more than taken aback. Nicole was drunk and said something about how my whole family deserves to be razed to the ground. That shocked me. I then interrupted her and asked her what she meant by that. Nicole acted like she didn't know what she was talking about. However, I didn't let it go though. Finally, it got too much for her, and she started screaming that I had heard her. As soon as we are married, she will do everything to ensure my family crumples, just like we did with her father. Then everything made sense. My mother heard all this too and immediately started crying. I went home with my mom because I couldn't stand Nicole's face anymore. I first moved in with my mother. Nicole didn't answer for a few days until she stood at the door crying and pleading that she was sorry, that she didn't mean what she said, that the alcohol was involved. At that moment, however, I realized that I didn't care at all. Over the last few days, I've had time to think about what happened, and I've simply realized that even if she just said that, marriage to her is out of the question. I informed everyone that the wedding won't take place, and luckily, I get a lot of the money back for venue and so on.